Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to episode 28 of the Sneider Cut. We are getting up there. Wild week, to say the least. And it was all about the mouse house, the mousetrap, Disney. Bob Iger stepping down as CEO. This was something that, we all knew was coming at some point. His contract doesn't expire until the end of 2021. But to do it just so abruptly on the day where Disney stock has just been hammered because of the coronavirus and its impact on things, I think they had to shut down Disneyland Shanghai as well. And it was just like, holy crap. There were the reverberations were felt far and wide around the world, really. And we've got this guy, Bob Chapek, coming in. And I was surprised how much people seem to know about him. He is the guy who's been in charge of the parks. That may be why, because so many people have been kind of dissatisfied with some of the season passes and things like that they bought, or I don't know if Galaxy's Edge opened as big as they wanted. So there's been a little bit of frustration in the parks, but either way, Bob Chapek is the new guy. Meet the new Bob, same as the old Bob, right? I love the photo that Richard Rushfield chose to highlight in The Angler. Again, if you guys aren't subscribed to The Angler, you absolutely should be. And it showed both of them wearing the exact same black suit and white shirt. And it was like, oh my God, who let this happen at Disney? Is there just a CEO closet full of these black suits and white shirts? So that was gigantic news. And Iger, obviously, you can make a lot of jokes. He's this, about the CEO of any corporation, really. But what this guy did is remarkable, and his legacy will bear that fruit. He acquired Pixar, he acquired Marvel, which the foresight to do that you can't understate. He acquired Lucasfilm, went out, got Star Wars, got Indiana Jones, two of the biggest, box office hit franchises of all time. So plus he left, he basically went out on a high note. The guy's like Seinfeld, and I don't know what his political aspirations are. He I think he said in interviews, he put the rumors to bed that he's not going to jump into the presidential race or anything like that, although I think he'd make a terrific VP for somebody. I don't know if he ruled that out. I don't know what he ruled out or didn't rule out, but obviously Bob Iger is fairly well-liked executive. He's got a great head on his shoulders. Just wrote a book about his experiences and leadership and all that. And he'd certainly be better than the moron who's in office right now. So, but he leaves Disney at the right time. He just launched Disney Plus. It hasn't. I don't know if it's been that successful a launch, because it really just had The Mandalorian and then The Library. And The Library is great, but people want new. People want new, And that's why I've just spent so much time on Netflix and lately on Amazon. I'm not using that service nearly as much. So the Disney Plus one. So, but he did that. He did ESPN Plus. Robert Iger is the model sort of executive. I think he's who a lot of people in this town modeled themselves after. And his departure, even though he's still the executive chairman and is supposedly going to still be very hands-on creatively, he's no longer handling the day-to-day. And, he's going to ride off into the sunset sooner rather than later, completely. So that was a big loss for Disney. And then Steven Spielberg this week stepping down as the director of Indiana Jones 5. Now, I've never been a big Indiana Jones person. When Crystal Skull was coming out, I tried to rewatch the original trilogy, and I think I made it through this half of the second film, and then I just sort of lost interest. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother seeing Crystal Skull, and I still haven't seen it to this day. So it doesn't have that bad. I don't have that bad taste in my mouth that a lot of people have with this franchise. I don't know if I'd be there opening night. I love James Mangold. I think he's going to do right by this franchise. I think he's a great choice. Sort of the next, he's in that, I'm not even going to say the J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves kind of mold, because he's older and more experienced than both those guys. And he's made some great movies. Like, I followed Mangold's career from the very beginning. I loved Heavy. I've always had a soft spot for movies about overweight people, which is why I love Angus. And I mean that and many reasons, but Heavy is a tremendous movie. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you all do. Obviously, then Copland, he did just solid movies, whether it's Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma, and then lately getting into just like, I think, great movies, Logan and Ford vs. Ferrari. So like, he's been on this upward trajectory for a while, and like, it makes sense that Steven would give his baby to someone, like Mangold, if his heart just truly isn't in it. The same way Iger's didn't seem to be maybe in it anymore. Like, he's taken things about as far as he can. Echoes of Pete Davidson this week, which we'll get into later. But for Steven to step down, I wonder if it really is just like the script, or if he's realizing, this thing does just work better with Harrison Ford, and I don't know how to tell him, so I'm just going to recuse myself. I think Matt Goldberg, I think it was Matt Goldberg who wrote something for Collider about how, like, Indiana Jones needs to be recast. Like, they just need to reboot him right now. Harrison Ford is too old to play this character. I don't even know if that's necessarily true, particularly everything that, you saw them do with, like, The Irishman. I think Disney and its wizards over there could probably do a little bit better. Lucasfilm and all those folks. But I've never seen the appeal. I think adventure is a very tricky genre, because these aren't action movies, They're like adventure movies, and so there's something a little, 50s serial hokey. I've always found it a little hokey, I'm not going to lie. But Mangold certainly has, I think, a little bit of a darkness about him, and I think it could really serve this movie quite well. So we'll see sort of how it comes together. What is the thing that Indiana Jones is chasing or whatever? What does the supporting cast look like? Are the Chris Pratt rumors legitimate, or because David Poland asked me on Twitter the other day, like, is he still a thing? And I'm not sure that he is. Like, I really don't hear about a ton of Chris Pratt stuff, not like I used to, where his name was just like at the top of every list for everything. And then, in additional, but okay, so by the way, that is another director that Kathleen Kennedy has lost on her watch. Now, nobody tells Steven Spielberg what to do. You can, and they go back since that first Indiana Jones movie, where I think she was his assistant, or someone's assistant on that production, but they've known each other since before I was born. And I can't really put this one on Kathleen Kennedy. It's not like she tried to make it work, or, got to pick who was directing this movie. Like, it was always Steven, and Steven does what he wants. And if Steven, if he just feels like, I've kind of already done this, do I really need to be like Michael Bay and need to direct every single thing in this franchise? I think he probably knew better. So I'm open to that fresh perspective, and we are going to be getting a fresh perspective on Star Wars as well. Kathleen Kennedy hiring Slight director J.D. Dillard, who is a J.J. Abrams protege, and Luke Cage writer Matt Owens to write a new Star Wars movie. Now, if this thing makes it to the big screen, I think that they will be the first black writers that the film has ever had, if I'm not mistaken. That the franchise has ever had, sorry. Which is, like, that's incredible. That's something. It's sad that it's taken as long as it did, as long as it has. But that's the question. We don't know whether this is a theatrical thing or whether it's going to wind up on Disney Plus. We don't know what they're writing. I thought it was hilarious. If anyone, has read Boris Kitt, more than 5 articles by the guy, God love him. He has, his little trademarks, and one of them is always, where the plot details will be kept. Because I'm always like, plot details will be kept under wraps, and it's kind of a lazy phrase, and so he tries to inject a little, fanboy knowledge and humor into it. And he said, plot details are being kept on someplace, some Star Wars planet or something, because I don't know what the hell this shit is. And then Deadline started picking it up as like a legitimate thing. And listen, maybe it is. Maybe Boris guessed it. Maybe he knew, and this was his cheeky way of addressing it without sort of addressing it. But Deadline, again, this could be totally legit for all I know. I have no fucking idea. But it seemed like Deadline just picked it up from him, not knowing that it was a joke, and reported as like what the actual plot is about. Like I think it was Exegol or something. Exegol? I don't know how they pronounce these things in Star Wars land. Which was just hilarious. Like yeah. So props to THR for actually calling that ridiculous shenanigans out. What else? Was there anything else to say about Disney? I mean, yeah, like the stock stuff is bad for everybody, but for Disney in particular, given like the park situation, that's now on Bob Chat. Like, that is Bob Iger is like, here you go. Like the stock is absolutely tanked. Like this is your problem now, Bob. And Chapek, now whatever happens, like, and it could get worse, obviously. It obviously could get a lot worse. The stocks could just plummet. But if the stocks do rebound, Chapek's like, well, look, from day one, I've brought up the stock price. So it's I think he's set up for success thanks to Iger. It's the same thing with Mangold. Like I think that he is set up for success by Steven Spielberg. I wouldn't be surprised though if Mangold did his own or brought someone in to do his own pass on Indy 5. Like, I wonder what that whole situation is. I did see John Kasdan cheering him on. He was the last reported writer on things, having replaced David Koepp. So, yeah. Indiana Jones. Do we need this franchise? Should we put this thing to bed? My pal Drew McWeeny, by the way, has a great idea for it. I won't spoil what it is, but he has a very inspired idea of where to take this franchise. And if I was a Lucasfilm executive for James Mangold, I would definitely give my pal Moriarty, Drew McWeeny, a call. But yeah, excited about that Star Wars news. Again, not really a Star Wars guy either. Sorry, Lucasfilm. It's not my bag between Indiana Jones and Star Wars. But J.D. Dillard, I've been advocating for a long time. I was a real big fan of Slight. Like, I really thought like he did a lot with a little on that, and he's got a lot more resources to play with now. So I'm excited to see where he takes things. Again, I wonder if they turn to them to like restart that Boba Fett movie. Because I think J.D. Dillard, because I'd always heard Michael B. Jordan would love to get in on the Star Wars franchise. And it'd be crazy if J.D. Dillard was writing something for Michael B. right now. What else? There's a lot of stuff on Mulan this week. I mean, listen, I'm going to see Mulan because I think that it's important that I do. I haven't seen a lot of the Disney live-action movies. I haven't seen Cinderella. Did I see Beauty and the Beast? I think I maybe did. But like Maleficent, there's just a bunch that I've sort of sat out. I saw Dumbo. But Mulan, I'm like, does this really appeal to me? I don't know that it does. But again, like I said, I think it's an important movie to see. I commend Disney for making it. And so Wendy Lee Zaney, who I work with and is the best person ever, she got to visit the set, which is like, imagine that. That's wild. I don't know where the set was, but like the photos that accompanied her report, because I forget where it was, but the photos that accompanied it were awesome, and she did a great job with the set visit, which are, they're always tricky, particularly Disney set visits, because everybody knows that the press is on set that day and to hide certain things. And Mulan is a less secretive production than a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie, obviously, but it's always hard to like make these things worthwhile, and I think Wendy did a great job. So you can find out why Captain Li Shang, the fan favorite, is not in the movie, and you can find out all kinds of fun stuff if you're looking forward to Mulan. I saw Parasite's coming to Hulu. I think I owe that movie a rewatch. I want to see how it holds up on second viewing. So as a Hulu subscriber, I'm looking forward to checking that out. The coronavirus. This thing's scary, guys. Like, I can't tell if it's the media, which is typically terrible with regard to like reporting on medical stuff and particularly viruses, because the media's job is to make you guys afraid. And they've made me afraid. That's for sure. And when I see, I think I had some like chart that I put on Twitter, and it was just crazy how much faster coronavirus seems to be spreading and how many more victims it's claiming than something like SARS or the bird flu or whatever the hell, it was over the last 5, 10, 15 years. This seems like no joke. And Hollywood is taking it very seriously. And it's like, I struggled with sort of how to phrase this stuff because I've been doing drafts of the newsletter that you guys have not been receiving yet, but you're going to be signing up, please. This thing's going to be a success. I've put too much effort in to let it fail. But it's like tricky to talk about how much this is costing Hollywood when it's costing people their lives. The human toll, of this virus is really becoming no joke. And it's so, even my dad, I called him this morning on the way into the office, and he was talking about how, I think it was Colbert, maybe him and another late night host who were joking about the coronavirus and making jokes about how to put the mask on. And he was just like, I didn't really find it very funny. And I'm like, listen, those guys' jobs are to entertain us and to distract us from the horrible shit that's actually happening in the world, and to make it so that we can go to sleep at night with all this stuff happening. So I don't blame them for making light of it, but it obviously is no joke, and it has shut down Mission Impossible 7 in Italy. Again, I think things are a little bit different overseas than in America, but it may be naive of me to think that. Mulan star Liu Yifei, she hails from Wuhan, where the virus originated, and China has obviously closed hundreds and hundreds of movie theaters. I think Disney pulled the Mulan release in China. A lot of other movies, they're going to have to wait a while, right, to get new slots on the calendar, so to speak. And in that time, there's going to be a ton of piracy, as there always is in that particular market. So it's like my heart goes out to everybody, who's affected by this horrible virus. And yet at the same time, as a reporter, it's like my sort of duty to talk about how much money it's costing studios, which, seems like an insignificant thing at a time like this. So, I hope that the world gets this thing contained, not just, for the world's sake, but for Hollywood's sake as well. Yeah. Little Shop of Horrors. Greg Berlanti is doing a movie over at Warner Brothers, and what I told you months ago in October seems to be true. Billy Porter is nearing a deal to voice the man-eating plant, Audrey II, Audrey 2, if you will. Chris Evans is now in talks to play the dentist. I'd said that he was lobbying for the role back then. His own father is actually a dentist. That's what makes it kind of amazing. Taron Egerton and Scarlett Johansson are in talks to play the leads. I think this is a best case scenario. If all these 4 deals close, this movie is greenlit going tomorrow. I really did not think that they would land this kind of talent for this movie. Taron Egerton, and I know these are obviously very beautiful leads. I don't know if that's supposed to be the case in Little Shop of Horrors, but you can't really ask for. Taron Egerton has a ton of goodwill coming off his Elton John performance. Scarlett Johansson just got 2 Oscar nominations, right? Chris Evans is hot off the Avengers franchise. This is, you couldn't really ask for more. And I think that most of them, for the most part, fit the roles. So I've always liked Little Shop of Horrors. I don't know that this movie's going to top the Frank Oz movie, with Rick Moranis and Ellen Green, but it's a fun Warner Brothers movie to look forward to. That's for sure. What else? Bong Joon-ho did a list of the 20 rising filmmakers to watch this coming decade. It was a good list. A lot of the names you would expect. And he's a dark guy. He likes dark stuff. Is it Ari Aster or Ari Aster? I think it's Ari Aster, who did Hereditary and Midsommar. Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook and The Nightingale. Robert Eggers was on it. So it had some predictable names, and then, it introduced me to some names that I'd never even heard of. I was glad that Chloe Zhao was on that list. I thought the writer was terrific. I'm looking forward to her next film. I think it's with Frances McDormand. Yeah. So check that list out on Collider. And also Bibiani did an interesting list of the 25 best classic monster movies. There were things that I never heard of before, really just out there concepts, and nobody knows this stuff better than Bibbs. So check that out. Man, what else happened this week? Oh, I wrote a thing about Pete Davidson. That's right. I had mentioned that. And Pete Davidson apparently is saying that he is going to leave SNL. He didn't actually say this, of course. That's just what's being extrapolated from the interview. But he sort of hinted that he's done all that he can, and that it may be time. He'll stick around as long as Lorne will have him, but it seems like he's sort of soft prepping the public for an exit. And frankly, I think it's time. I think that he is sort of underutilized on the show. The show is way too political. And Pete Davidson doesn't really play. He's not like a real impressionist. And so he doesn't really fit in with the political material. He's sort of become like a Weekend Update, like a celebrity to have on Weekend Update almost. And he really is more of a celebrity than an SNL player these days. And I think that when you start to overshadow the show, it may be time to go. Now, he's got a Judd Apatow movie coming out, The King of Staten Island, which, I trust Judd Apatow in terms of making the comedy stars of tomorrow. Would you have guessed that guys like Seth Rogen or even James Franco would be the stars of your favorite comedies for a solid decade? No. So I think that if this movie is really good, it could totally launch Pete Davidson. He's already got this big time Adolescence, which was very well received out of Sundance last year, and Hulu held it the entire year. I don't know what was really behind that, but I think that they couldn't really ask for better timing. Pete just dropped a Netflix special that I thought was pretty good. It wasn't hilarious, but it was good. Speaking of which, I went to Dynasty Typewriter. If you're in the LA area, definitely check out the Comedy Club. Dynasty Typewriter, they get some great names. It's a fun little theater over on the east side. And so I went to go see Joe Mandy and Dimitri Martin and Sashir Zamata from SNL and Luke Null. And then there was this young woman, Taylor Tomlinson, who just has a new Netflix special as well. She was hilarious. She blew me away. This girl's an absolute star. I would definitely be trying to, if I was a studio executive, I'd be trying to build something around her right now. What else? Anyway, it was a very, very fun night for sure. But right, okay. So Stephanie and I. It was a motherfucking date night. Okay, we're in the front row, dead center, best seats in the house. It doesn't get any better than this. And I'm giving Luke Null fist bumps. Everybody's incorporating me into the show, I'm the center of attention practically, as far as an audience member is concerned, which you guys know I love. And there's this guy behind me whose laugh is just maybe the worst laugh I've ever heard. I've heard a lot of bad laughs, believe me. Some might even say I have a bad laugh. I laugh it's very high pitched and it's very hyena-like. But this guy's laugh was so deep and loud, and he was laughing crazy loud at funny things, but things that weren't that funny. And Stephanie and I are just keep looking at each other is this guy fucking for real? I can't turn around and say, hey man, don't laugh. It's a comedy club. That's what people are supposed to do. But it was like something out of a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. So fortunately, the show had an intermission, and I go up to the staff and I'm like, listen, man, I've got the best seats in the house. And he's like, hurry it up. I'm very busy. So what do you want? I'm like, I need new seats. You should have no problem filling my seats. They're great, but I need new seats in the back because this guy is ruining my fucking night. The guy's like, oh, totally understand. No problem. They got me the seats. Thank you so much. They were beautiful seats in the back, dead center again. And right off the bat, comic comes out. He looks at the empty seats in the front row. He's like, what the fuck is this? Were these reserved for my parents or something? So he incorporated then the seats that I had left into the act. And then he made a joke about an altar boy, and the guy, he called the guy out on Laughing Loud. Basically, he's like, this guy sounds like he used to be an altar boy. I went up to, at the end of the intermission, I went to our neighbors in the front row before we departed the seats. And I said, is it just me or is this guy the worst laugher of all time? And they were like, he's horrible. We were going to say something, And I was like, well, I'm getting out of here. Like, it's been nice knowing you guys. Enjoy the rest of the show. But I definitely took the initiative on that one. So thank you to the fine folks at Dynasty Typewriter. Guys, I watched all of the morning show this week. What a great show about Me Too, about consent. And I feel like Apple was almost like afraid of the subject matter in this. And like they were trying to pitch like, oh, no, it's about a morning show. And like, I'm like, no, this is pretty much just about Me Too and consent and all that. And those very thorny elements, particularly in the business of Hollywood, where, you know, people are working 12, 14, 16-hour days, sometimes 18-hour days if they're on set. Like, things happen. People get close, and they have no time to find another outlet. And so they just turn in. And that's how office romances start. And listen, I know plenty of couples in Hollywood who are a direct result of office romances. But like the skill of the morning show is the way that it gets you to at first empathize with Steve Carell's character a little bit. And you know, you have people coming up to him saying, hey man, you got a raw deal. And then when you finally see not the big thing that he's been accused of, you don't see that scene in flashback, but you see other sort of things, and it does sort of establish a pattern, a predatory pattern. And like there's an amazing scene halfway through this series between Carell and Martin Short, and it's basically a scene, you know, as my pal Justin Kroll said, that is between Matt Lauer and Woody Allen. And, you know, Matt Lauer's like, I'm nothing, you know, like you. Like, and he sort of gets like self-righteous about it. And when it's just, it was incredible to see my mind sort of go back and forth on certain things in this series, which is, you know, got to be like a career highlight for Jen Aniston. I thought she was absolutely fantastic. Seems like a guaranteed Emmy Golden Globe nominee. And, you know, like I don't think this is like a limited series. Like, I think this is coming back for a second season. So this is a series, which I think there's like, are you telling me? I'm not even going to point out specifics, but I think Jennifer Aniston is going to be a nominee pretty comfortably based on her work on this show. Reese Witherspoon, I thought, was really good. And God, I love Duplass. I love Billy Crudup. Like, the show is just fantastically cast and superbly written and observed. Now, it's a little clunky at times, and it's prone to like Sorkin-esque monologuing, but I just thought it was a really complicated view of things that really asks the right questions and picks the right targets as well. You know, there's an element about how much the network president knew about Steve Carell's behavior and you know, insulated him. It snuck up on me, and I know I'm late to the party on the morning show. I did not really dive into the Apple stuff at the same time that everybody else did. It took me a while to get a press site login, but I've, you know, really been trying to take advantage of it lately. And yeah, I mean that's a good show. That's a show worth spending $5-6 for the month to sign up and watch it like a normal person rather than binging it like I did. I also saw The Invisible Man this week. Get out there and see The Invisible Man, folks. This is kind of a special movie. It's not a perfect movie. It definitely has some flaws. It ties itself into one too many knots, maybe. Like, there's one beat that just feels like a little false. And but like, you know, I don't want to nitpick this thing. It's great. It's absolutely great. And everybody's been talking about the direction, like the way that Leigh Whannell uses empty space and makes you wonder, is there something there? Is there somebody there? I loved the score, the cinematography. Like, Elizabeth Moss is absolutely terrific. And I mean, she's always great, but I think that this is better than Toni Collette in Hereditary and better than Lupita Nyong'o in Us. I think that this is like a legit performance that could actually, I'm not going to say that it's like going to get nominated or whatever. I'm just saying I would take this more seriously than something like Us or Hereditary. Yeah, Lee Winnell. Like, listen, I think Saw's a masterpiece. I think Saw is a brilliant, brilliant screenplay. Like to trick an audience like that. I mean, my jaw was like on the floor the first time I saw Saw. And that's from the mind of Lee Winnell. And he's definitely been sort of stuck doing some sort of schlocky stuff, I think, over the years. He definitely lost me there for a few years, but Upgrade really showed what I think he could do. And I'm glad that Blumhouse and Universal gave him this opportunity. I mean, budget was still only just $7 million. And this thing's on, I think it's poised to make 20 or 25 or something like that, maybe even 30 this weekend. I haven't checked the stats from last night, but I think that word of mouth is going to spread. I think this is like couples are going to go see this movie. I could see older women liking this movie too. Like, when I was telling my dad, like, he should go see it, I had to say, like, this is not a horror movie that they're sort of selling it as. This is a thriller, and really like a psychological thriller. Matt Goldberg reviewed it for Collider, calling it a story that's not just chilling and scary, but thoughtful and insightful. So go and read his review. We also got, the first trailer for Candyman. Oh, shit. I've got a personal connection to Candyman, I feel like, in my head anyways, because my dad is the Candyman. He was in the candy business. His nickname was the Candyman. He had clothing that was embroidered with Candyman on it. And we had, in our lovely, beautifully furnished home, thanks to my mother, who had impeccable taste, we had this gigantic fucking Candyman poster that instead of From the Mind of Clive Barker said From the Mind of Carrie Sneider. And it was Dad's head superimposed on Tony Todd's body. So it was just like always something that I grew up with. It was one of the earliest movies that I saw a woman's breasts in, strangely enough. When Virginia Madsen is like stripping at the police station, and I think she has to remove her shirt and her bra, and I mean her boobs are just like caked in blood. But for some reason, as like an 8 or 9 year old, whenever the hell I saw that, I was like very very aroused. I remember, just what you guys tuned in to hear. But Candyman, just like that score from Philip Glass, Virginia Madsen's absolutely terrific performance in it. Tony Todd turned himself into like an iconic horror franchise villain, and that movie just had a huge impact on a very young Jeff Sneider. What else happened this week? Right, we got our first looks at the Eddie. Reviews on that have been mostly positive. I don't even know if it's like a very jazz-tastic new series, I want to say, with Andre Holland, Amanda Stenberg. And then Matt Reeves' Tales from the Loop. Mark Romanek directed the pilot. This is like based on some crazy Swedish artists, the work of some crazy Swedish artists. It just looks very trippy and futuristic, and I'm down to check that out on Amazon when I get access to that. A lot of stuff going on in the streaming world. Walmart is like, I think that they're going to sell their Vudu service to NBC Universal. That conglomerate is in talks for it. But then Walmart is also planning to launch its own Amazon competitor called Walmart Plus, and it too would like create its own content, which is crazy, as if there aren't enough content players these days. What else? All right, there was the Lizzie McGuire series that we found out is on hold because they fired the original like creator. Like things were maybe a little bit too mature for the Lizzie McGuire audience, and so they wanted. They were just like, listen, this isn't for Disney Plus. And so now they're like, well, why isn't it maybe for Hulu? Why don't we make it for them? And they're just like not getting any answers. Poor Duff. Poor H Duff. And then Netflix this week started letting people know about like the top 10, like what are the most popular things people are watching on Netflix. I don't know if I trust this. It just seems like something that they could so easily sort of change or manipulate in some way to sort of drive people to certain titles. But even if I am to take them at their word, what do I care what's popular with Joe Schmo? Like I trust my own taste. I trust the algorithm over other people, frankly. which says it all. Watchmen reclassified as a limited series with possible future installments. That seems like the way to do it, because what HBO, I think that they have something special on their hands, and if they can somehow recreate that without having to mess with the original story, which they said was, closed-ended, all the better. And then I love the back and forth between David Weil, the creator of Amazon's Hunters, and the Auschwitz Memorial, just who you want to be battling with. I don't think that is the position any streaming services Emmy contender wants to be in when you find yourself in a war of words with the Auschwitz Memorial. Whew. Okay. What else is coming out, man? Next week, we got The Way Back, right? I'm excited to see that, the Ben Affleck movie. I'm just a big Ben Affleck guy. I'm also a big guy in terms of, fighting injustices online. I feel like some people perceive me to be the bully, but I'd like to think that I fight for the little guy, because I was the little guy. I am the little guy right now in Collider, doing battle against the big bad trades. And so I started paying attention to this situation that was developing this week, where, okay, so there was some writer, Delara, from Much Ado About Film, I want to say. Forgive me if I get these things wrong, because I don't know who these people are. And some DM of hers from years ago surfaced in which she used the N-word. Obviously not appropriate at all. But also, I don't know what by the way, I didn't actually even see the offending tweet. I didn't see the DM. I don't know who she sent the DM to or what the context was. So it's hard to address the actual usage of the N-word besides a blanket, this is not cool. Obviously a mistake, but, one that, shouldn't kill you. But apparently the abuse that she was getting from people, and it's not that I don't know if she called someone the N-word or just used the N-word, but it seemed like people were jumping on her, and she was very emotional, maybe having some issues of her own, and she threatened to kill herself. And so things got serious, when I first started following this, it was after Barry Jenkins, I think, had jumped in, because I think that's the first thing I saw. It was just hey, Barry Jenkins had to jump in on this. I was like, well, what is this? What am I reading? So I was sort of just following this situation, and it's all about this guns. So this Guns Akimbo director, this idiot Jason Lee Howden, who I don't know what this guy was thinking. Maybe his movie hasn't been tracking well, and he wanted to stir up some controversy, and it certainly did make headlines, but it was trending for all the wrong reasons, and I would know because I've been there. So I guess he went after two of the women who, I don't even know if they had even said anything to Delara. I don't know how he found these two, why he targeted these two. They happen to be two women who, I don't really follow on Twitter. I think I blocked them a while ago. Just not my bag. Didn't feel like I was theirs. So what's the point of this, So, but just because, I've blocked somebody doesn't mean I can't empathize with them when something is clearly out of place. And so this director, I think, had sort of targeted them and put their photos up online. I don't know what kind of a following this guy had, really. It's not like it was someone with a zillion followers. But I want to make sure I get it. But right. So he just started hurling invective and attacking these women. And it was a case of online bullying, which is the same thing that happened to this girl, Delara. And so I guess I started when I really started paying attention was when people were like, is Guns Akimbo losing its distribution, or is it not coming out at the end of the month? Because that's when I, as an industry reporter, I'm like, well, now we have a story. If Saban is actually seeing this stuff, and apparently the guy was tweeting he moved from his own personal Twitter to the movie's Twitter, which is insane. Insane behavior for a director. Insane that a studio would allow that for more than one tweet. And So okay, so I'm like, where are we in the story? So I guess after sort of people had chased this guy off of Twitter, so they'd taken away the Guns Akimbo account keys from him. I guess he moved, and this is alleged because I don't even know if it's true. He moved over, reportedly, because I think it could be totally somebody else. I'm just going to say someone created this Fuck Journos account, which I can't believe I hadn't thought of personally myself before. And they were still keeping it up. And so absentmindedly one morning, and not even absentmindedly, but I saw someone had pointed this thing out, and I just went and clicked follow because I want to stay on top of the situation. If this guy's still doing this and things are intensifying or whatever it is, I want to keep abreast of this situation. Didn't think about it the rest of the day. Didn't see any tweets from that account either, because I think everything that they were doing was a reply of sort. And so I'm sitting in bed. It's 11:30 at night. And I get a DM from a mysterious friend of mine, and he's like, "Hey man, just want to let you know, people are saying shit about you on Twitter, and I couldn't see any of it because I had blocked all these people already. That's why they're blocked." And the shit that was being flown my way from this was unbelievable. So because I followed this account, which I guess only had 6 followers. By the way, I love anyone who's going through the list of followers on Twitter and extrapolating something from this. I've got Eric Anderson from Awards Watch being tagging Collider on Twitter as if he's trying to get me in trouble or get me fired or something. I wonder what Collider thinks about Jeff Sneider following this account. I don't get, I'll say it right now. I don't give a fuck what Collider thinks about me following an account because this is America and I'll follow any fucking account that I want. So it's in this very story about online bullying, right? The dangers of it on both sides from multiple people. This guy wants to continue that cycle of abuse, pulls me in from out of nowhere. I haven't tweeted about the situation at all. I've simply clicked a follow button. Sorry, I got to put my phone on silent here. And targets me for harassment and bullying for the crime of hitting a follow button. A follow is not an endorsement these days. I'm a journalist trying to keep track of a story. I don't follow Donald Trump on Twitter. Most of the people that I know do because they love just jumping on every fucking tweet that Trump sends. I don't assume you're a Trump voter if you follow Donald Trump. It's the most fucking asinine logic. And when people, again, I'm not a political person. The first time I voted, was Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote before then. So I recognize the danger already. But, you guys got to be fucking shitting me. You can't start going after people based on who they follow. It's accusing someone of a crime based on the movies they like or the books that they read. It's fucking insane. And where are we in society where we allow this to happen? And I haven't gotten any fucking apology from Eric Anderson because, we all know the type of guy that this is. Right? We do. So good luck with your site. And I'm ready to move on. It wasn't, I unfollowed Fuck Journos because it's not even worth it to me. I wanted to help somehow, talk about it, with a very different tone this morning. And I remain sympathetic to the cause and to the 2 women who, even though I have blocked them, and I may not be a personal fan of theirs, I completely acknowledge that they're in the right here. And it's not, fair what happened to them. It's not fair what happened to Delara. The whole situation sucks. But when you start playing the look at this fucking asshole following this account, how dare he? Let's get him fired. What are you doing? It's like Sebastian Maniscalco goes, what are you doing? Fucking people, guys. What else am I watching? What else is happening this week? I'm checking the headlines as we talk. Blah, blah, blah. America Ferrera leaving Superstore. How will the store continue? Blah, blah, blah. There's nothing. Guys, that's really been the week. 000 I can talk about. I do have a review coming. We decided to hold it a little bit closer to the premiere date, but I loved it. I thought it was really something. It is at its weakest when it focuses on the actors that you are aware of. And the series does star Andrea Riseborough and Dane DeHaan, and they're both good. But I think it soars when it focuses on its Mexican characters and its Italian characters. And I can't wait to sort of get into more specifics. And but I would definitely add that to your watch list. Keep that show on your radar because I was very, very impressed. What else did I do this week? Was that I watched a couple of movies. I watched Sneakers and Donnybrook for the first time. Wasn't that impressed with either one. I mean, Sneakers, I can see how that might have been cool in 1992. And, it was a fun little caper, but I don't think it's one that I'm going to be revisiting anytime soon. The cast was fun. I really like David Strathairn. But, yeah, I don't know if that's a standout for me in the Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier filmography. And then Donnybrook, I'd seen Dark Knight. I wasn't a big fan of that at all. I don't know if Tim Sutton, it's just not for me. Donnybrook was okay, but it was kind of just like a bunch of indie movie cliches, and it moved a little slow for my taste. And yeah, it uses this opera music as to give it this sort of fake profundity, profoundness, whatever the word is. I don't know. I'm an idiot. But I didn't really jive with that one. You know what? Let's just call it right there, guys. Go see The Invisible Man this weekend. Check out Perry Nemiroff's interview with Elizabeth Moss, who came on Ladies' Night and had all kinds of fun stuff to say. We have a segment called Collider Ladies' Night. It's a lot of fun. Good luck to Hillary Clinton, who's going to be my podcast rival. Even though I voted for her, she's now entering the podcast space, guys. I hope that you'll stay with me. I know she's going to have some wild movie opinions, though, that Hillary Clinton. Have a wonderful weekend. Wear your masks or don't. Just live life. Let it happen. I'm at the Sneider on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Cameo, wherever Sniders are sold, found, traded illegally on the black market. Thank you for watching. Tell a friend.